The Myanmar military shut down the internet in the country on Saturday as thousands of people protested in Myanmar's largest city, Yangon. It was the biggest street demonstration seen yet since this week's coup. As the protests swelled, witnesses reported a shutdown of mobile data services and Wi-Fi. Earlier, the military ordered mobile operators and internet providers to block access to Twitter and Instagram. A temporary ban had already been put on Facebook, which counts half of the country's 54 million population as users. Before the shutdown, hashtag Save Myanmar and hashtag Respect Our Votes were trending, and many were using the platform to voice their opposition to the military coup. The Ministry of Communications and Information did not immediately answer a request for comment, but said previously it had blocked Facebook for the sake of, quote, stability.
A row between the European Union and Russia over the treatment of the prominent opposition leader Alexei Navalny has escalated. Russia has expelled 3 diplomats who it says took part in unauthorized protests in support of Mr. Navalny, who's been jailed for 2.5 years for fraud. He was back in court today on a separate charge.
It's becoming a familiar sight. President Putin's nemesis on trial. Alexei Navalny had already been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison this week for a parole violation. Slander was the charge now. He insists it's political persecution.
I will appeal to his release.
Across town, the EU's foreign policy chief was calling for Mr. Navalny's release. It didn't go down well. First, Russia's foreign minister called the EU an unreliable partner and accused courts in the West of political verdicts. Then his ministry expelled 3 EU diplomats, claiming they'd attended rallies in support of Mr. Navalny.
The International Criminal Court has opened up the possibility of a war crimes probe into Israeli military actions in Palestinian territories. On Friday, the court ruled that its jurisdiction does extend to grounds occupied by Israel in the 1967 Middle East War. In a tweet, the Palestinian Authority welcomed the decision, but Israel's Prime Minister accused the court of legal persecution.
When the ICC investigates Israel for fake war crimes, this is pure anti-Semitism. The court established to prevent atrocities like the Nazi Holocaust against the Jewish people is now targeting the one state of the Jewish people.
The United States also objected to the ruling. Like Israel, the US doesn't recognize the court's jurisdiction. Last year, the Trump administration imposed sanctions on ICC officials. They included revoking the chief prosecutor Fatou Bensouda's entry visa to the US over the court's attempts to prosecute American troops for actions in Afghanistan.
Meanwhile, vaccine manufacturer Pfizer on Friday withdrew its application for emergency use authorization of its vaccine in India. This decision has come after it reportedly failed to meet the drug regulator's demand for a local safety and immunogenicity study. The decision means that the vaccine will not be available for sale in the world's second most populous nation anytime in the near future. Unlike other companies that are conducting small studies in India for foreign developed vaccines, Pfizer had sought an exception, citing approvals that it had received in nations such as the United States and Germany and the United Kingdom. The US company, which was the first drug maker to seek emergency approval in India, made its withdrawal decision after a meeting with India's Central Drug Standard Control Organization. The drug regulator said that its experts did not recommend the vaccine because of the possible side effects that have been reported abroad.
This aircraft brought the first sign of good news for millions of Iranians since the start of the pandemic nearly a year ago. The Russian Sputnik vaccines are the first batch to arrive, and there are 2 more shipments coming later this month. These jabs will be given to 430,000 healthcare workers before anyone else. And Iran has so far purchased 2 million doses of the Russian vaccine.
Russia's Sputnik V's efficacy is 91 to 93%. Considering that the Sputnik is designed well and its second doses are stronger than the first doses, we expect 91 to 92% efficacy in our country. More importantly, the Sputnik V prevents death in very serious cases of the disease 100%.
Iran is the worst affected country in the Middle East, with nearly 60,000 COVID-19 deaths and more than 1.4 million people infected.
The United Kingdom blocked CGTN, the China Global Television Network. Its license has been removed with immediate effect. Here's more.
$1.3 billion. That's how much China spends each year to increase the reach of its state media. CGTN, or the China Global Television Network, is one of its marquee projects. You will see why. China is assisting Papua New Guinea with vaccines. China is being a good neighbor to Myanmar. The PLA expels US destroyer from territorial waters off Shisha Islands. This channel parrots Chinese propaganda. It spreads lies in nearly 160 countries and regions. Today, it was booted out of one. CGTN has been taken off air in the UK.
His career spanned more than 60 years, marked with the highest of accolades for his extraordinary talent on the stage and the screen. Canadian actor Christopher Plummer, best remembered for his role as Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music, has died at the age of 91.
Fräulein, were you this much trouble at the Abbey?
Oh, much more, sir.
He was the dashing widower and head of the Von Trapp family.
You may call me Captain.
Who, alongside Julie Andrews and a bunch of youngsters, sung their way into the classics with The Sound of Music in 1965. Christopher Plummer was an accomplished Shakespearean actor, a Canadian who learned his craft on the stage.
A Newcastle man who falsely claimed there was a bomb on board a Singapore Airlines plane has been sentenced to 2 years jail. 2 fighter jets scrambled to intercept the flight in response to the hoax.
The sentencing judge said Sanjay Kaurat's threats would have left passengers extremely distressed. In late March 2019, a Singapore Airlines flight from Mumbai to Singapore took off. There were more than 260 people on board, including Kaurat's mother and another relative. The 40-year-old phoned Mumbai International Airport and told them there was a bomb on the plane. In a second call to an airport employee, translated from Hindi, he said, "There is a bomb. My mother is in there. My relative is in there. There is a danger to both of their lives."
It's an argument between neighbors. It happened during that huge snowstorm that hit the nation this week. The dispute, snow shoveling.
Step out here, I'll knock your ass out.
Within minutes of the nasty fight breaking out, all 3 of these people will be dead. Police say James and Lisa Goy were shoveling snow onto their neighbor's property near Scranton, Pennsylvania. They started yelling insults at each other.
I'll make your life live in hell, living here.
But then 47-year-old Jeffrey Spade pulls out a handgun. You can hear the woman dare him to shoot.
Go ahead!
And then he does. The first 4 bullets miss, but then the husband is hit. We're freezing the video. You can hear him scream out. Then his wife is gunned down.
Oh my God!
Stunned neighbors come out of their homes.
Are you okay? You want help up? Are you okay?
They all run away when they see their neighbor coming back, armed this time with an assault rifle. At this point, the husband and wife are both still alive but seriously wounded. The video shows Jeffrey Spade deliberately walking over to them. He's shouting profanities at them, and then he shoots them again at close range, killing them both.
A ute has exploded in the middle of a residential street in Hoppers Crossing. The fireball was sparked by gas bottles, and as Maggie Rayworth reports, it was lucky no one was injured as crowds gathered to watch the drama unfold.
In the middle of a residential street, a car explodes. Neighbours just metres from the inferno.
Now!
Smoke billowed into the air as the ute continued to burn last night. A bad end to the week for this young tradesman.
Take the work ute home, mate. Take these oxy bottles back on Tuesday morning. No worries, brother.
This is his work car.
How do I tell my boss that the car just exploded in the street?
Wow, that's my work car on fire.